Hello, everybody. This is Professor Cicerelli. Um, I wanted to talk to you today about the top 10 common grammar errors that I see in student writing. Um, this list isn't ranked. It's hard to rank something like this, but I did want to talk about some common errors that I see and discuss them in a little bit of detail here. I want this to be an overview video though, so I don't want this to be the kind of video that where I go super in depth into every single one of these. I'm happy to do individual videos on every single one of these. If you want to see an individual video on any one of these topics, send me an email, let me know, leave a comment down below, and I'm happy to make additional videos on each of these topics. But I did want to give you a little bit of an overview on some of the common grammar errors that I see in student writing. And these are the kinds of errors, by the way, that when someone sees them in your writing, they're automatically, I always like to say that as forgiving and kind as people are, they're super judgmental when it comes to reading people's writing, especially if you are applying for a job or you're sending out a cover letter or something, and someone reads some of these grammar errors, they're going to make judgments about you fairly or unfairly, and you don't want that. So these are the kinds of errors that you want to make sure that they're not in your writing, because they will distract from whatever message you're trying to get across. Some of them I would say will distract more than others. Some of these people might not even be aware of. I still see these commonly, even here on YouTube in some of the video descriptions and titles even. They're distracting. So you want to make sure that they don't pull the reader out of your writing when they see these. The first one has to do with possessives. Now, possessives. We're talking about possessives. We're talking about possessive pronouns. We're talking about those pronouns that show ownership. And very often, these possessive pronouns have what are called homophones. Homophones are words that, if you look at the word homophone, that sound the same, but they are spelled differently and they mean different things. And some of these possessives that have homophones are possessives like your, their, all right, it's T-H-E-I-R, and its. Okay, so these are possessive pronouns, meaning that they show ownership. They show that whatever is being talked about belongs to someone else. Okay, in the case of your, it belongs to some you. There, it belongs to some group of people, and it belongs to some non-human. Okay. So when we're talking about possessive pronouns like these, what has to follow them is a noun, because you can only possess a person, place, or thing. So when you see one of these possessive pronouns, if the next word you see is not a noun, then you know that the person using that possessive pronoun is using it incorrectly. So for example, if I'm using your correctly, it should be your name, their books, its like tail, let's say, if I'm talking about an animal. So these all work because they're all nouns, and so that whatever the possessive is shows that this noun belongs to it. However, it's easy to confuse these pronouns, these possessive pronouns, with their homophones. For example, your and you are. Okay? This is the contracted form, the shortened form of you are. Okay? And so for example, if I were to write this out, you are you're going home. Okay? If I were to use this your here, you would see very quickly that it does not pass the test of, is the next word a noun? No, it's not in this case. Going is not a noun. And so I would know that if I used this your here, I'd have a problem. Okay, and I still see this a lot in student writing, and even in writing that is published online somewhere. I still see these kinds of mistakes. Same thing with there. Okay, THEIR is the possessive pronoun, but it also has its homophone. Whoops. Sorry about that. Okay. Same thing, right? So if I were to use this there here, no good. Okay. It has its homophone. It is. It is going home. Whatever the it is. Okay. So you've got to make sure that if you're using these possessive pronouns, that you're using them appropriately. Okay. Second big error that I see has to do with, and again, remember, no ranking here, has to do with countable versus uncountable nouns. There are lots of errors that surround the difference between these two. And I think it has to do with the fact that people don't know what a countable noun is and what an uncountable noun is. Well, in short, a countable noun is a noun that you can have a quantity of. Okay, a noun that I can count. So table is a countable noun because I can have many tables. Chair, countable. Shoe, countable. Book, countable. Phone, countable. Pen, countable. I can have a quantity of all of those. Uncountable nouns, these are nouns that tend to be concepts, ideas, but also certain physical things that, I guess you want to say there's certain physical things that are maybe we don't talk about as having quantities of. So some examples of physical things in the real world that would be considered uncountable. Things like water. Things like sugar. Okay? Both of these, even though they are physical and exist in the world, we don't think of them as being countable. We sometimes say, go get some waters, plural. What we really mean, though, is bottles of water. We don't mean waters. Okay? Same with sugar. Okay, we sometimes say, leave some sugars on the table for us. What we really mean is packets of sugar. Right? Okay, so knowing that there's such a thing as countable and uncountable nouns, okay, you run into some issues with words that are associated with these countable and uncountable nouns. What do I mean by that? Well, there are certain words that we only use when referring to countable nouns, and there are certain words that we only use when referring to uncountable nouns. Or maybe I said the reverse. There are certain words that we only use with countable nouns, certain words that we only use with uncountables. And the ones that we use with countable nouns, for example, are words like fewer, okay, many, okay, and words that we would use for uncountable, less, much, okay. We also, with countable nouns, we would use the word number. And with uncountable, we would use amount. Okay. These two, I would say, amount and number, are confused all the time. I hear even really, really smart people, all the time, say the amount of people. Okay, what's the problem with that? The amount of people. I'm sure you've heard somebody say that before. So what's the problem there? Well, I'm using the word amount, which I just told you is used with uncountable nouns, and I'm using it to refer to a countable quantity. People is a countable quantity. It can count people. Okay, so when someone is referring to a countable noun, they need to use the words on this side of the line, of the divide. Okay, so if I'm talking about calories and I'm talking about reducing calories in my diet, I want to eat fewer calories, not less calories. If I'm talking about the quantity of books I have, I would say I have many books, not much books. But if I was talking about an uncountable quantity, if I was talking about the love that I had for my dog or my wife or whomever, I would say I have much love for this person. I have much love for my wife. I have much love for my dog. I have much love for my family. Same with those other physical ones. I have too much water, not too many water. Too much water, too much sugar. Okay. So I see these confused a lot. I especially see amount and number mixed up all the time. Okay. Number 3. Okay, let's add a different page here. So number 3, I don't know where I'd put this one, but it's just worth knowing the difference between good and well. Okay, good is an adjective or a noun. Adjective or a noun. Well is an adverb. Okay, so if somebody asked you how you're doing, okay, or how did you do on a test, okay, would you say I did good on the test, or would you say I did well on the test? Well, what's the person asking you when they're asking you how did you do on the test? They're not asking you about the actual content of the questions. If you said I did good on the test, then maybe this was some kind of test that was testing your moral ability, or this was some kind of test that was testing your morality. Then you would say, yeah, I did good on the test. I was going out and doing charity, or something like that. But really, what the person's asking you when they're asking you how did you do on the test, they're asking you about your performance. How did you perform? Okay, and so they're asking you about a verb. Okay, how did you do? I did well. Okay, and well is what describes the verb, describes your performing. Okay, I performed well. Okay. And so if someone was asking you how you feel, okay, how would you respond? Are they what information are they asking you? Are they asking you how do you feel in a moral sense? Do you feel good? Do you feel evil? They're probably not asking you that. They're asking you about your health, about your feeling, asking you about a verb. Right? How you do? I'm doing well. Okay. So I see those mixed up. I see people still are unclear on that. But just to clarify, good, adjective, or a noun. Well is an adverb. So if you're using good, you're using it to describe a noun. You're not using it to describe a verb. Okay, so if someone asked whether they thought they asked whether you thought this person was good or not, they're asking you about them as a person, as a noun. So then, yeah, I think they're good. They're a good guy. They're not a well person. Okay, because you wouldn't use well to describe a noun. Okay, number 4. Let's talk about, we could talk about if and whether. If and whether, this one I wouldn't say is really distracting. The two words do mean different things. People use them as if they mean the same thing, but they do have a slight difference in meaning, and For someone like me who pays attention to this stuff, I notice when someone's using them incorrectly, but very often people don't notice this. But just so you know, the two words do have different meanings. And just to spell out for you, when you are using if, you're using what's called a conditional. When you're referring to whether, you are asking about possibility. Now this is really abstract, and I'm going to explain in a second. So if I use if, sorry, and I ask something like, let me know if you're coming. So let me know notice I'm using the UR that I'm using there. Let me know if you're coming. Okay, what I'm asking the person is, I only want to hear from you, I only want you to let me know on the condition that you're coming to my party or whatever it happens to be. Okay, so if is a conditional. I only want to hear from you if you're coming. Okay. Whether, on the other hand, suggests possibility, suggests the alternatives. So if I said instead, let me know whether you're coming, okay, what I mean there is I want to know whether you're coming to my party, yes or no. Okay, so I'm stressing to you the possibility or the alternatives. Yes, no, let me know, either way. Okay, so they have differences. Like I said, people tend to use them as if they are synonyms. They originally were not intended that way, but just to let you know there. Let me clear this out. Number 5. Who and whom? Who and whom? They're both what are called relative pronouns. Okay. What they do in a sentence is they connect a noun to information about that noun. The man who sold me my car. Okay. So the man, noun, who, relative pronoun, and then it's connecting that noun to the adjective, the information that comes after it, which is sold me my car. So it's telling you information about that man. And think of the relative pronoun as like a connector. It connects the noun to the information about the noun. It's usually adjective information about that noun. Okay, but what's the difference between who and whom? Easy rule to remember is who refers to subjects. Who refers to subjects? Whom refers to objects. Okay, so an easy way to check and see if you're using the appropriate relative pronoun, who or whom, is to plug in words that you know are subjects. So words like he, she, they, those are subjects. Objects like him, her, them, those are objects. So in a sentence like, I'll type it out for us. Let's see. So in a sentence like, whoops. Okay, have a look at that sentence. Okay, so if we're looking at that sentence, we went to the mall with people who or whom we knew from college. Okay, so the way to test and see and plug in the subject or plug in the object is start looking. You don't even need to look at what comes before it, truly. Just look from there to there. And you'll notice we knew from college. We knew he, she, they from college. Or we knew him, her, them from college. Okay. Well, if we knew is our subject, this we is subject, knew verb, then what's going to come after that knew, that verb? It's going to be an object. We knew them from college. So because that is the pronoun that makes sense there, okay, we knew him, her, them from college, because it's that's the one that makes sense grammatically. This would be whom. We went to the mall with people whom we knew from college. Okay, one other example. Who's coming to the party? Whoops. Okay. Who or whom? Okay. Well, if you answer the question, if you just answer the question, you'll be able to see what you can plug in. But he, she, they are coming to the party. She is coming to the party. He is coming to the party. They are coming to the party. Okay, so because it's he, she, they, right, it should be who. Okay. One more real quick. I don't want to waste too much time on this. Who or whom did you vote for? Think about answering it. I voted for him. I voted for he, she. I voted for him. I voted for her. I voted for them. Okay, that's the one that makes sense. So because him, her, them are the ones that make sense, what do I need? It needs to be whom. Right? Whom did you vote for? Okay. Good. Okay, let's try to get through 6 through 10 with a little bit more speed here. Whoops. Each, every, and all. Okay. Are these singular or are these plural? What sort of verb do we use with each, every, and all? Okay. So each of okay, each of them need or each of them needs. Now you might think that each, because it's with them, is plural, so there I would need. Each and every is always singular. Okay, so if I said every one of them needs, each of them needs, each and every is always singular. Good. And what about all? All is plural if it's with a plural verb. If it's with a plural noun. All is singular if it's with a singular noun. Okay, so all of them, all is now used with them, which we know is plural, right? So would it be all of them need or all of them needs? It would be all of them need, right? Because depending on what this noun is, that changes what all is. If I said all of the food, countable or uncountable, uncountable. in this case. It's not there. We're not talking about a quantity. We're talking about singular. So all of the food. So would all be singular? Yeah, because the food is singular. It's not. We're not talking about a quantity here. Okay, let's move on to 7. 7. Comma placement. Quick thought about comma placement. Just a general issue I still see with commas occasionally. I think what I notice with commas is that people just are uncomfortable with where to put them, so they just sort of haphazardly put them wherever they feel like it. If they go too long without using one, they just put one down. You want to have a rhyme and a reason for how you use commas, and I'll give you 2 just briefly. One is if you have a prepositional phrase at the beginning of a sentence, like in the woods, I saw him. Separate, always just get in the habit, even if it's a short prepositional phrase, like in addition. Okay? Just get in the habit of separating that prepositional phrase from your independent clause, your independent sentence, your sentence that stands on its own. Just get in that habit if you have one at the beginning of a sentence, like I do here. The other place where you need commas, and where I see them misplaced often, is when I have 2 complete sentences that are connected with a conjunction. And remember, conjunctions are words like and, but, or, so. For example, you've got, let me type it out, it's faster. Okay, so I've got 2 independent complete sentences here. Whoops. I've got, I went to the store. Okay, complete thought, subject, verb, object. And then I have another complete thought, subject, verb, object. And I have my conjunction and, connecting both of them. The comma always goes before this coordinating conjunction. Okay, and. I don't put it after, I always put it before. So, as a rule, before, not after. However, what I didn't say though is to always use a comma with and, because there are going to be times where you're using and the and is not connecting 2 complete sentences. So you're using the comma before the and only when it's connecting 2 complete thoughts. Okay. If I said I bought milk and cheese, that's not, the and between milk and cheese is not separating 2 complete thoughts. It's only separating 2 nouns. So then I would not use a comma, but here I would. Okay, so if you remember those 2, comma placement there, a lot of your comma problems will go away just by remembering those 2. Okay, let's look at 8. What are we going to talk about? 8. Talked about who and whom. Let's talk about whose and whose. Okay, we already talked about possessive pronouns, but here's an example. Here's another example of a homophone issue. Words that sound the same to the ear, but they mean different things, and they look and are spelled differently. So, whose, this is who is. Okay, and this one is our possessive pronoun. Okay, whose shoes are those? Whose books? Whose table? And remember, just like with the other possessive pronouns, when you're using that possessive pronoun, the word that comes after it is going to always be a noun. Okay, whose books? Whose shoes? Okay, I would not say this. I see a lot of this. Actually, I just saw this on YouTube today, I think. Someone in the, might have been somebody in the comments section or somebody in the title of their video even. So what am I saying here? I'm saying who is shoes? is what I'm saying. Which doesn't make grammatical sense. What I mean is, whose shoes are these? Okay. To whom do these belong? Is what I'm asking. Okay, number 9. Let's do. Okay, let's just do 9. 10 is a little the 10 is a little more involved. I'll give you 10 quickly, but if you want another video on 10, let me know and I can spend, because that's a little more involved, 10. But I'll give you rule number 10, but I'll leave the nitty gritty details of it for later. 9, just remember with your noun and pronoun agreement. Okay, if I'm talking about one student, I can't use their to refer to one student. There is a plural pronoun. It needs to be matched with a plural noun. Okay, so if I'm talking about one student, I could say I could say him, I could say her, but if I don't want to use sexist language and exclude, I could say him or her, or he or she. Now, what's tricky is, if we're talking about, unfortunately in English, we don't have a singular non-gendered pronoun, unfortunately. Other languages do, but English, we don't, unfortunately. So there are some people who, because if they're thinking in sort of non-binary terms and don't want to use him or her to refer to a singular student, they will use they or them or their. And in that case, I guess I would say that's okay. But just be aware that unless you're using they, them, their, specifically in sort of a non-binary sense, if someone sort of is gender non-conforming or something, then that's fine. But if you are using they to refer to a singular male student, then just be aware your noun and your pronoun aren't agreeing, and you'd want to make sure that they agree. Okay. All right. Number 10. Number 10 involves certain verbs that are often used incorrectly. That is raise and rise, and lay and lie. Okay. Now, without getting into too much detail here, what I will say, and we can go into much more detail about transitive verbs, intransitive verbs. I can go into detail. I can do a whole video on that for you if you want. What I'll say in short is, when you're using lay and raise, always attach directly to, let's just say, when I say objects, I mean nouns. Rise and lie do not attach directly. They will use a preposition. Right. Let me give you just 2 concrete examples, and then we'll end. He raised his hand, not he rised his hand. Raised his hand. In this case, with raised is attached directly to the object, his hand. Okay. Let's use lay real quick. So present tense here. He lays the book on the table. So notice lays is attached directly to the book. Okay. I'm not going to talk in this video about what happens with lay and lie in the past tense. I'll save that for another video if you want. Rise and lie. Where's my, okay. Okay, he rises from the bed. So notice, rises is not attached directly to the bed. What it has in between rise and the bed is from, that preposition, right? So like I said, rise and lie always use prepositions to connect them to their objects. And I'll give you one with lie. He lies down on the sofa. Okay? So notice, connecting lies to sofa, you actually got two prepositions there, down and on. Okay? So, actually, I guess maybe technically lies down. Maybe down would be an adverb there. Not sure. Yeah, maybe, yeah, I think an adverb. So we don't, but either way, we don't have lie connected directly to the sofa. We have preposition and then even the adverb in between. Okay. What I often see is that people will confuse lay and lie. They'll say, for example, he lays down on the bed. No good. Okay. Usually what I see, I don't usually see lie used in place of lay. I usually see the opposite. I usually see lay used where lie should be used. Okay, so just be aware of that. And like I said, if you want more on that, I'm happy to do another video on that. Just leave me a comment or send me an email, and I'm happy to make a video on transitive, intransitive verbs. I may even make one in the future, just regardless. But let me know if it's a topic that you want some more clarification on. All right, thanks everybody.